Hi, Dick. I see you on the call. This is Joanne. Can you hear me just as a test?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can.
Hi, Dick. This is Joanne Brown. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Joanne. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you if you can hear me.
Okay, let me, I can't,
And you have to talk? Okay,
you can mute it now down there.
you want to be muted.
Well, you can mute it, but if you go.
It's 9:30. We can get started. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this Monday, March 27th, 2023. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law in section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment.
I don't know if that works.
Raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute
They can't hear you.
and announce yourself before you speak.
One of the.
When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note
Sorry,
that
Liz.
calling users-
Who's ever talking or in the background, please mute your microphone during this process. Thank you. Go ahead, Liz.
We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Thank you. Ms. Roca,
Present.
Ms. Holzer,
Present.
Ms. Brown,
Present.
Ms. Fake,
Present.
Ms. Britt.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum with a full complement of board.
All right,
And
thank
Madam Chair,
you.
we do have one postponement this morning. It's calendar number 22-220 regarding 6050 Tucson Avenue. This will be the third postponement. If this is the second postponement by the applicant, they are having difficulty getting in touch with the owner to get all the documentation together. So they will not be present this morning. We can postpone them out to give them extra time to the first week in May or the second week in May. That would be May 8th. We could go even further if you would like, since, to give them extra time.
Yeah, do the third week.
The third week would be May 15th. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So calendar number 22-220 is postponed to May 15th. There will be no testimony this morning, and if you received a hard copy letter in the mail, you'll receive another hard copy in the mail before the hearing, about 10 days before the hearing. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all that I have.
Thank you. And we're getting, are we still getting echo? Now, yeah, that's done. Okay, great. All right, so what's our first case?
So, Madam Chair, we do have Councilman Slife with us today.
Okay, we'll go to his.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Our first case is calendar number 23-012. This is at 4020 West 161st Street. Daniel Rabkowicz proposes to construct a one-story attached garage addition in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner seeks relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. This case was postponed to allow time for the appellant to meet with his neighbor. Testimony was taken previously. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Good morning. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
Daniel Rebkevich, 4020 West 161st Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135.
We can't hear you, Catherine. I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Catherine Jenke. Catherine Jenke, 4024 West 161st Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135.
And Councilman?
He's also muted.
Charles Slife, 601 Lakeside.
Thank you, sir. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Since we have the history already, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the minimum distance requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Okay, thank you. Who will be the spokesperson for this case?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, who?
I can't hear the questions. I'm sorry.
Who will be the spokesperson for this case?
You have a good day.
Suppose that will be me, the owner,
Okay, say your name for the recorder.
Daniel Rebkevich.
All right, Mr. Repkevich, go ahead.
Also, my architect is trying to log in, so I'm not sure if he'll be joining us or not. We might need to swear him in as well.
Okay.
But when I'm proposing, last we talked, we were looking for variances for a 10-foot distance to the neighbor's primary residence and a variance for the 10 feet to the property line rule. So we have, I can't tell if this is the new one, Maurice, because it's small, but
This is the new one.
this is the new one. Thank you. So we have a new rendering where the garage is now more than 10 feet from the neighbor's primary residence. Unfortunately, we're still asking for the variance to the property line, which is pretty customary in this neighborhood. I believe my neighbors all around me are less than 12 inches to the property line. So what I'd be proposing with this garage is to use 2 exterior existing walls of the existing house to make up half of the new garage walls. And in this version of the drawings now, we have more than 10 feet between the garage and the primary residence next door. And now we're allotting for 18 inches between the garage and the property line, which is more than is customary in this neighborhood. So that is the summary.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jenke, did you have anything you want to add?
Well, I do have an email that I sent to Mr. Kevich and his architect, and I forwarded it to the zoning board. I'm not sure if you got it or not. I did have a few questions. I get the new drawings. I didn't have much time to have them reviewed. My son-in-law is a civil engineer in Chicago. I had him look them over. And I do understand what Danny's doing. Moving the garage 18 inches off the property line is fine, because I do believe that's what mine is 18 inches. Because there's no way we can do 10 feet in this neighborhood. The garage would be in the middle of the yard. And I am still concerned about the distance to the house, but if 10 feet is what the code says, then I guess I have to accept that. But I am worried about the water drainage off the garage, because the drawings do not show gutters or anything like that. And I know that Danny has said he has drains in his yard, but I have to be honest with you, if he has at the back of his house where the addition, the family room is at, and where his patio is at, they're not working because his yard constantly floods. Every time we have a rain like we did this weekend, his backyard kind of looks like a lake. So I'm worried about when this garage is built, will the drains go down the driveway or will they go in my backyard? I'm worried about that. I want to make sure that I do believe at the last hearing, the civil engineer made a comment about these variances, that if I ever decided to do anything as far as selling my house or any kind of construction, that I would have to get a variance. I do not want to have to go through that, and I don't want to have any problems should I sell my sell my house. So I want to make sure that that is addressed. I want to make sure that, no offense to Danny, we've been great neighbors all these years, but the pictures that he showed at the last hearing of the projects in his backyard have been projects for the last couple of years and have not been completed. Danny mentioned that his intentions are to put up a fence. Right now, the fence that's up currently is his, even though it's installed backwards incorrectly. I've never argued about that point. I just want to make sure that a fence does go up and that this project is completed. I guess I want to say a timely fashion. I understand that there's always going to take some time to do stuff, but I'm looking over my notes real quick. Oh, and a construction easement. My son-in-law said that I should make sure that there's a construction easement so that if any damage is done to my property, that I would not be the responsible party for repairs, it shouldn't cost me anything for him to do this work on his house. And I guess I am happy that he's putting 18 inches between the house and a fence, the garage and a fence, because if he's doing cedar shingle, it's going to need to be repaired from time to painted, stained, whatever. And as far as 18 inches between a fence and a garage with leaves, because he has quite a few big trees in his backyard, that it's going to build up, and I don't want rats. We've had a neighbor that did that, and we had rats in the neighborhood. I don't want to have any problems, I guess. So I'm worried about a construction easement, the drainage, and I want to make sure that code so that in the future, it's not going to cause me any issues. And that's it. Other than that, I really like Danny as a neighbor, and I hope that this works out. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Ms. Jenke. Many of the things that you have said you have concerns for will be followed up or adhered by the Building and Housing Department. And I hear Board of Zoning Appeals. However, we'll let Dan speak on particularly the drainage matter and whether he's going to have gutters on the garage or not.
Yeah. I know my architect is probably not on, but of course I would have gutters on the garage. And when I'm talking about drains, I'm talking about the drains that exist. That the new drains or the new gutters on the garage would tie into the existing drainage system, a gutter system that I've got. So I've got in the vicinity, I have 3 drains under the driveway and the patio that run to the Cleveland sewer system. So those would be, and the only legal way to do it, I believe, in Cleveland is to make sure that you tie your gutters into the sewer system. I don't think you're allowed to have any runoff at all in the city of Cleveland, I believe. So yeah, the gutters would have to be tied into the existing system.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm supportive of the variance. I appreciate that Dan's pulled it back a little to be respectful to the neighbor, and and I think that it would be a worthwhile endeavor for us just kind of at a more macro level to as we talk about form-based code. I know that's gotten a lot of the oxygen, but kind of understanding where in parts of the city the zoning code doesn't really align with the practicalities of a dense neighborhood. I mean, the 10-foot off of the property line is just wholly impractical in any sense. So it's kind of comical. We got to be here for that. But yeah, to the degree that the variance is, granted for practical difficulties not generally shared, I can say just because the house had been, expanded in the past, that makes the opportunity for a detached garage a little more challenging. So that means it's an attached garage, which means it's part of the structure. So it is a little unusual relative to the neighborhood, but appreciate that this can go forward. Thanks.
Thank you. City Planning?
I was muted. Maurice Rowland, City Planning. Yeah, we were very happy to see that the applicant was able to modify his drawings and address some of the concerns of the neighbor by pulling the driveway back to 10 foot 1 inches. So it'll meet code. You won't even need that variance at this point. And then pulling the garage off the property. Okay. I mean, that's my anticipation of that. Mr. Riccardi can being the zoning administrator for building and housing can confirm that. And then also pulling the garage off of the property line to and moving it to 1 foot 6 inches is also a positive. And yes, requiring 10-foot side yards in a neighborhood that was originally appears to be constructed on 3-foot side yards is definitely a practical difficulty. And to the neighbor, the only effect that this would have if you sold your house or if you wanted to do anything would be if you wanted to build some kind of a structure next to the garage. It would have to, well, of course, you'd need a variance right away because the way the code is written, you'd have to be 10 foot off the property line. So you don't immediately need a variance regardless of what you did. I think a more practical distance would be the 10 feet between buildings. So there's that. But if you were just doing a garage, let's say, you probably could get away with just the 18 inches. We would grant that. We would probably grant that variance, of course. I can't make that guarantee, but it's something we would look upon favorably. And I would also like to see some drawings with the gutters, I think, submitted for final approval for the Board of Zoning Appeals, because I do agree that those drainage issues should be taken care of with this approval. And with all that said, I would support the variance.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I just have a comment to the appellant with respect to your need for a construction easement. That's something that you would work with your neighbor on. It's a private property right. So get with your neighbor and you guys get with your lawyers, draft something up, but that's not something that the Board of Zoning Appeals would weigh in on.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, board?
Madam Chair? This is Liz. I'm sorry to interrupt. Could we have Mr. Riccardi respond to Mr. Rulin's question about whether or not a variance is still needed? It seemed like the only issue that's on the agenda is the distance from the main house.
No, they were also written up for the fact that the structure itself needs to be 10 feet off the property line as well. But Mr. Riccardi can clear that up.
This is Richard Riccardi. As you can, there were two things cited. With the attached garage, not detached, but with the attached garage, there is the requirement of the 10-foot side yard. That variance is still needed. Obviously, with the new plan that moves the attached garage 10 feet away from the neighboring house, obviously that part of it is no longer required. Right.
Thank
okay,
you,
Liz?
Madam Chair. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. That's very helpful. I just wanted to make sure that I had it clear for the resolution. Thanks.
Madam
Great,
Chair,
thank you.
if there's no further questions or comments, I'll move forward.
Thank you.
We've heard this case previously. Very glad to see that the homeowner and his architect made a new iteration of the plan that solves the 10-foot distance problem from the neighbor's house. Mr. Rulins noted that city planning would like to see drawings that would include the gutters. So should we pass this variance, we're going to require of the appellant drawings that would show the gutters on the garage as it relates to the drainage issue. And with that being said, we've heard from Mr. Riccardi noting the change on the variance with regard to the 10-yard distance. So we just have the other one remaining. So I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 23-102012, excuse me.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I second. Board Member Hiroka.
Ms. Roca with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 23-021 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and then we will send the appellant a letter. Oh, I'm sorry. We will hold ratification until we receive the revised drawings. Sorry about that. Thank you. Once we receive those revised drawings, and we'll ratify it the following Monday and send the appellant a letter.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Next.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Catherine Jenke was trying to say something, but you're muted, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to know, will I be provided with a copy of those drawings? Because I know I didn't get the last set of drawings till like last Thursday. So before you guys, I mean, I realized it was approved today, but the ratification part, will I be provided with a copy of those drawings?
I don't know if the city will send them automatically, but Michael and I can certainly send them when they're done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It probably won't be overnight, but yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
All right, next case.
Our next case is calendar number 23-047. This is at 2187 Overlook Road, McGregor at Overlook, in Case Western Reserve University proposed to change use from nursing home to student housing / dormitory. The owners seek relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please. The appellants for this case, please state your name, address.
I do. Dick Jamison, Case Western Reserve, 10900 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
This is Joanne Brown. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry for the echoing. I'm going to move my phone further away. I do, Joanne Brown, 10620 Cedar Avenue.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, just one quick question to Ms. Brown. Did you call in on your phone as well as being logged in?
Yes, I did.
Okay, if we mute you on this app, I think we'll eliminate the echo. Let me just try this real quick. Okay, now, can we hear you? Nope. Okay. That didn't work.
Is your phone muted?
I'm going to mute it right now.
No, we hear you now.
Okay. Is there an echo on your end?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to, maybe if I turn my volume down. Is that any better? Can you hear me?
Yes, better.
Less echo?
Yes.
Great. Apologize for that.
No problem. Happens all the time.
Did you swear in, Ms. Brown? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Madam Chair.
There was a
Is there anyone else who
Kathleen
wants to
Barry that also had her hand raised. I don't know if she was trying to swear in.
Yes, this is Kathleen Barry. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we do.
Okay. Yes, I would like to speak to this too, please.
So you need to, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, and state your name and address.
I do. Kathleen Barry, 2 Herrick Mews, Cleveland Heights.
Thank you. Anyone else for this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I didn't find anything in our Records Administration Office regarding this property. There are no variances on file. And in the more recent history, we see that in 1999, a permit was issued to re-roof the property. There were interior alterations in 2003 to a nursing facility. We see that there are yearly food licenses issued starting in 2005 going forward. In 2009, a permit was issued to add 4 parking spaces to existing parking lot accessory to a nursing home. There's signage installed in 2009. And Madam Chair, I think that's all that may be relative to this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance from the requirements of the zoning code. To obtain a use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Great, thank you. Okay, who will be the spokesperson for this case?
I will be.
And you are? State your name, please.
Joanne Brown, Case Western Reserve University.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Go ahead.
All right, next slide. Thank you. We'd just like to start out showing 2 things, an aerial view of the property to give you the proximity. Basically, we are across from the Nottingham Spurk building on Overlook Drive, and then you can see on the left visual down in the lower left-hand corner our tennis courts. So we are adjacent, very close to the upper portion of the southern campus of the university. On the right, what you're seeing and what I'd like to bring to the attention is that this property is in both Cleveland and Cleveland Heights. The majority of our neighbors are in Cleveland Heights. This just shows the line, and that's an approximate line. This was taken from the city GSI as a combination with Google Maps. Next, please. So at this time, the university is asking for a change of use. This is a conditionally permitted use based on Board of Zoning Appeals approval. This just indicates the portions of the code where within a 1-family district, and you can see the zoning in the yellow on the left visual, that with the approval, this would be feasible. Obviously, as a university, we want to use this for student housing. So if we are not granted the variance, it would be unusable for our purposes as part of the purchase. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is included for reference. So this is from 2009. So it was a drawing that was submitted when some parking lot expansion shown in the hatched area was done to this property. We are doing no exterior renovations or alterations to the project. Our intent is to buy it as is. Obviously, we will maintain the exterior, but the majority of the work that the university will complete is on the interior with repainting, recarpeting, things of that nature. We do, it is already divided up into suites that we intend to use as is. So with that, I'm done with my part of the presentation. If there's any questions, or if Dick Jameson, who is our Vice President of Campus Services, would like to add anything. Thank you.
Glenn, I think you covered it pretty well. We intend to use it for upper class student housing. It'll be under our housing management, which has residence life staff and very professionally operated. All of our residential properties are maintained with regards to the grounds, the building maintenance. So we will have a very steady management of the site and the property, and good control over our student operations. We need the space to help accommodate growth, particularly in our rising upper class students. So that's the plan. And as you know, there are a number of our students that live in the area already, so we think it's compatible with the general neighborhood use. And that's pretty much our intention at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berry?
Good morning. We very much welcome being in the neighborhood of Case Western Reserve. We were about a block away and now we'll be immediately adjacent. Our property is along the line out what from Overlook is the back of the property. The back of the property is Herrick Mews, which is a National Registered District of Landmark Houses. It's the oldest historic district in Cleveland Heights. And our fortunes have risen and fallen depending on who owns this and adjacent properties. So this is an area in great demand. It's growing. We're happy about that. There are new developments nearby. And there are a couple of things that we're concerned about, and we have spoken to Dick Jamison about these, and I just will mention them. The Herrick Mews frontage for this property is very important to us. It has not been well maintained in recent years. So we're hoping for a higher level of that maintenance. The placement of trash receptacles and a dumpster so that they cannot be seen from Herrick Mews is of real importance to us. We had initially this problem with McGregor when they moved in, and they very quickly, upon our request, changed the dumpster so that it wouldn't be seen and so the trash wouldn't spill onto the Mews and our neighborhood. This is a residential area. There are quite a number of $1 million townhouses that have been built in recent years, in addition to our home, which is from the 1890s, and an old carriage house. Again, a Cleveland Heights landmark. So it's the beauty and the maintenance of the property that's really important to us. We know Case Western Reserve students are extremely diligent and generally pretty quiet, and we assume that if there's any problem that housing management and student life would take care of those issues. So we're good on that. A couple of the issues are parking. There are adjacent properties which have sort of relied on this lot. I don't know that they compensate anybody for the parking, so we're looking forward to parking being more regulated there than kind of the random car stashed. And also the street is a private street. So the residents, the owners along this street have to pay for the paving, and Case Western Reserve would fall within that. There's a light that's been out for a while. We'd like to see that replaced. And
Ms. Berry, are you speaking of things that are in Cleveland Heights though?
No, that's in Cleveland.
Okay, as long as you're referring to, areas that are within the city of Cleveland.
That is what I'm doing. Thank you.
Okay.
So we welcome them. We also welcome them because we are right next. We are in Cleveland Heights, and so are they. To up the level of maintenance, we have some terrible maintenance along Overlook Road that's both in Cleveland and Cleveland Heights, and we hope that they can help persuade property owners to fix up trash that hasn't been picked up. So in short, with those conditions, we welcome Case Western Reserve to our neighborhood, even closer.
All right, thank you, Ms. Berry. And to Case Western, I hope you have written down and will be good neighbors and speak to Ms. Berry about what their issues are concerning
I'm sorry.
those parts.
I can speak to that. We've already been having some discussions with Kathy as the representative of the neighborhood, and we intend to certainly meet those requests and hopefully exceed their expectations in terms of our maintenance of the property and ongoing partnership with the neighborhood.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Berry. Okay, city planning.
Yeah, Maurice Rollins, City Planning. We think this is an excellent reuse of this building. It was a nursing home, kind of lends itself, as the applicants have said, perfectly to being reused as a student dormitory. Not much work is really probably going to be required for this. I have every confidence that, first of all, this building has been sitting unused and vacant for quite a while now, and I have every confidence that once Case Western Reserve takes occupancy and starts using it as a dormitory, that it will be kept up to the standards that Case is known for in the area on their main campus. As far as parking, there is some parking on the site. We know that students don't all own cars. There's a lot of students that use public transportation. And so we think that there is adequate parking for this facility. We would recommend approval for this project.
And Ms. Parker is here for Councilman Griffin. So Ms. Brown, can you swear her in so she can give his perspective, please?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. 601 Lakeside Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Parker.
Here to represent Council President Griffin. Council President Griffin support this project of Case Western Reserve. He think this is a great project and will be access or great assets in Ward 6. Hopefully you can hear me, but he support this project. Thank you.
I did hear you. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So this is Liz. To the neighbors' concerns, I think that the one thing that we could make sure is on the drawings is the dumpster enclosure. The code requires that as it is, and I guess maybe this would be a question more for Rick Riccardi. Is this something that would be caught in the permit review process down the road, or should we have the applicant submit a new plan showing the location of the dumpsters as well as the dumpster screening? I think that's something that we could make a condition of the resolution as well too, if you so choose.
Madam Chair, another point on the dumpsters. I'm not sure if the dumpster location is actually even in the city of Cleveland. If you look at this aerial where it's divided, I think the trash dumpsters that are currently located that I saw back there did not appear to be on the city of Cleveland side of the border. But maybe the applicants can answer that question.
I believe they are, or it was.
Kathy, on our last site visit, I don't think we saw the location of a dumpster, did we? It was not there anymore, was it?
No, they took it out. We pointed out where it was, but it's not, there's not a dumpster there at the moment.
We've identified an acceptable location in terms of visibility. We can certainly add the screening, and it's, I'm not sure as to its location, whether it falls in the Cleveland or Cleveland Heights, but we have identified a obscure location for the dumpster that works for us.
So in looking at what we're seeing right now on the screen, if we look at the
who's talking?
This is Joanne Brown.
Okay, go ahead. Just you need to say who you are before you start speaking.
Oh,
so.
I apologize.
Nope.
If you look to that little sawtooth leg, what I'm going to say in the building where there's two small indents. No, other corner.
Oh, here.
No.
Oh, here.
Right there. I believe along that longer portion, top to bottom, is that where the location was previously, where it was not viewed by the neighbors? Lower left-hand corner.
Yes, correct. Kathy Berry, yes, correct. That's where it was.
Okay. And Dick, is it your understanding that that would be the location that Case Western Reserve is fine to?
Yeah, that's affirmative.
Okay. I would say in that case, it does look like it is on the City of Cleveland property based on that. Be kind of right in that zone below that top yellow line.
All right, thank you. Board, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, hearing no other comments or questions from the board, And it seems that we have identified the area where the dumpster enclosure is going to be, and it does fall within the city of Cleveland boundaries. So we would ask then, as a condition of the variance, that the Case Western would supply us a drawing that would show that dumpster enclosure on it before we ratify, should we vote to approve this today. So with all that being said, it does, as Mr. Ruland noted, it looks like it's going to be an excellent reuse of the building with nominal modifications by Case Western, which is always excellent. So with that, I move that we go ahead and approve calendar number 23-047 with the condition that I previously stated.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Abstention.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 23-047 is granted conditionally. We will hold ratification until we receive that drawing showing the location of the dumpsters and the screening. Once we receive that, we will ratify it the following Monday and send the appellant a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Maurice, I thought I saw you pulled up 23-030 and I wasn't sure if we were doing 23-004 next.
Yeah, we only have one more case. I'd like to do that before we get into the appeals.
So we have 9721 Union and 3967 East 93rd.
Oh, we have two more cases. I thought it was just one.
Yeah, two more. I'm sorry, trying to locate. There we go.
Okay. Our next case is calendar number 23-004. This is at 9721 Union Avenue. Regis Williams proposes to establish use as a residential facility for 5 occupants in a B12 family residential district. The owner seeks relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And this case was postponed on from February 13th to allow time for the appellant to meet with the councilman. Testimony was taken at that time. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. Then state your name and your address.
I do. Levita Parker for Council President Griffin, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
There's someone here from the appellant.
All right, well, we'll hold this to the end, see if they come back. Sorry, you gotta hang out with us, Ms. Parker.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, we'll move to the next case. If they come back, we'll take them last.
You are muted.
Mute.
been doing so well. Okay. Our next case is calendar number 23-032. This is at 3967 East 93rd Street. FPT Land, IVLLC, and Wheeling Lake and Erie Railroad Company propose to establish use as a stone material storage and trucking yard in a B2 semi-industry district. The owners seek relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are two. This case was postponed from March 6th at the request of the appellant so that a full complement of board members can be present. There were only 3 of us present on that date. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
Who is that, Maurice? Can you just mute everybody?
I'm looking right now. I'm not sure. Looks like David Watkins. I'm getting a lot of feedback from him. There we go. Yep, it was Mr. Watkins for some reason, but I think he's swearing in for this.
Yeah. Okay.
Ms. Hamilton Brown, Majid Makhlouf is here as legal counsel, so I would not swear in, but the witnesses would.
Chad Gall, National Lyman Stone, P.O. Box 120, Findlay, Ohio. I do.
I'm going to turn mine on real quick. It's my computer fan, if you can hear me. David Watkins, 250 Warren Avenue, Leary, Ohio. I may not need to speak, and so I'll see if I can switch to my cell phone while we're starting the agenda.
Thank you.
Sounded good there, though, so you might have it under control.
I do. Dan Mapes, 1331 Broad Avenue, Findlay, Ohio.
Anyone else? Madam Chair.
I do. Jeff Davis.
One more.
With Wheeling and Lake Erie Railway Company, 100 East First Street, Brewster, Ohio, 44613.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please. Did we get that already?
No, we did not. There was no testimony. Madam Chair, there's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1920, a permit was issued to erect a gas station and install gas tanks. And that, Madam Chair, in the more recent history, found that in 2016, a permit was issued to repair a non-conforming sign. And then, Madam Chair, we don't see any other permits or anything that seems to be related to this case. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the minimum distance, fencing, and drainage requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, who's the spokesperson for this case?
Madam Chair, this is Majid Makhlouf, legal counsel. Actually, just quickly identifying the individuals that we had, Chad Dahl with the applicant, he's actually going to do the bulk of the presentation today. The other individuals, just for your reference, they're available if the board has any questions. Dave Watkins with Osborne Engineering, he's the civil engineer. And then Jeff Davis is with the Wheeling and Lake Erie Railroad. 2 points I just wanted to emphasize. We've met with city planning on this project and understand we have the support. I can't see Marka Fields on the list, but I think she was on the last time. And we also have met with a councilman who's in support of the project. I understand Communication has been sent to the board with respect to that. And we met with the CDC, and on March 20th, Rashawn Sample of the Union Miles Development Corporation also sent a letter of support to the board. So we have the CDC support, the councilman support, and the city planning support. And with that, I would turn it over to Chad to explain the project and what we're seeking. Oh, the one other point, sorry, I neglected to say, is I wanted to just be very clear. That truck access is from East 93rd. Depending on how you read the code, that could potentially require variance. So we just wanted to be very clear on that issue. The site plan does show the site access and the gate from East 93rd, and just wanted to be very clear on that the truck access is coming from East 93rd. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chad. Thank you.
Thank you, Majid. Chad Dahl with National Lime and Stone. A little history on our company. We're a privately held aggregate producer founded in 1903, headquartered in Findlay, Ohio. Our main business is the production and sale of crushed stone, sand, and gravel into the construction markets. About 60% of our product either goes directly or indirectly into public works projects. So roadways, pipe bedding, sidewalks. Our material is a basic industry that's used in just about every form of construction. Our intent with this site is to rail in crushed stone from our quarry located in Northwest Ohio in the small town of Cary. We would be bringing in flat bottom gondola cars. If you can see the picture that someone has been kind enough to bring up. We would bring the material in. We would bring an excavator in to excavate the material out of the gondola cars and into dump trucks. Those trucks would then stockpile the material on site to be loaded out to customer projects. There's a few more pictures. I don't know who's controlling this, but I very much appreciate it because I'm not near as good sharing photos as whoever's doing this. So this is a photo of a typical unloading yard. You will see the stockpiles. You will see a platform scale right next to the building. And the building is a small scale house where we weigh the trucks prior to them going out onto the roadway to deliver to customer projects. Again, about 60-ish% of our material is used in in public works projects. This is an aerial of the project. You will see the stone stockpiles, and if you look closely, you can see the railroad cars. We are asking for a variance to stockpile on site and for potentially access, or not potentially, for access onto East 93rd. You will see a small platform scale to the west side of the picture. That is basically where the trucks, after they're loaded, will come onto the scale. They'll be ticketed to make sure they're of legal weight, and from there they'll leave to the project site. Our operation is typically from the 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, some Saturdays from 8 to noon. We are very much a seasonal business. Majority of our shipments and customers will go during the spring, summer, and fall, and then you'll see a significant slowdown in business come winter. Again, our materials are tied very much to the construction industry. That is the access point that we're proposing. There's an existing access point there. We will gate the site, we will fence the site, and we will clean up the site. So our intention would be to, hopefully, if we can obtain approval on the variances, to get going on the site immediately with cleaning up the site and getting it ready for shipments. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. You should have a full packet of the engineer drawings that were produced by Osborne Engineering, a third-party engineering firm that we use. I also have on the line our Dan Mapes, who's our Director of Environmental and Safety Compliance within our company, and he would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Well, I can tell you work with city planning because you kind of covered a lot of the questions that we would have already. Just one quick one though. What are your days and hours of operation for this?
So we typically operate 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And Saturdays during the season, 8 to noon. We will on very, and I think it's, you know, in full disclosure, on very, very rare occasion, some of the public works projects go at night, which is dictated by the city or the county and the state. And at that time, we will ship at night, but I can count, in my 30 years, I can count on one hand how many times that's happened. When that occurs, we reach out to the local council people to let them know, hey, there may be a couple nights that you'll hear us over there operating, and it's because, for example, the city of Cleveland's doing a water line and they need material 2 a.m.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from your team would like to speak? Okay.
That's it. They're
And I,
happy to answer questions, but we were planning on Chad doing the primary presentation.
okay, thank you. And I saw the letter from the councilman on the screen, support from him. And they've also stated they have support from the CDC. So I'll call on city planning right now.
Yes, Maurice Rowland, City Planning. Unfortunately, Marka Fields could not make it today. She's in another meeting, but she conveyed the fact that she did meet with the applicant, and they are in full support. I can say that if you're looking at this site plan, you can see that this is a lot of the land is straddled in between 2 railroad tracks, so there's virtually no other use for this property. So I think this is a good use of the property, and you can also see that it is surrounded by other outdoor storage facilities, industrial type uses. So I think this is and this is the reason why that we have so much support from the councilman, the CDC, and from city planning. So we recommend support of this project.
Great, thank you. Board, I'll open it up to you for any questions or comments.
Madam Chair, I just have one question, and this is probably going to be geared toward the appellant's environmental and safety compliance individual. I just have a question about the process by which your business ensures that particulate matter or any like leakage of the gravel isn't, you know, put into the air, so to speak. Is there a covering? Do your trucks get covered? Do the mounds get covered? I'm just thinking about, you know, the where you are located in. Okay.
We do air permitting through it'll be the local air agency there, which is the health department for Cuyahoga County. And we also work with the Ohio EPA for stormwater, those type of issues. But the dust is, we do have a large amount of these products are already washed at carry, so there's very little dust in those. However, the base materials we will have the ability to wet those down during, if needed, during unloading. It's normally a very high inherent moisture content, so there's normally very little dust, and we'll also have the ability to apply any approved dust suppressants or water to the roadways. And of course, we're required to not have any carryover onto 93rd Street by EPA rules. So actually, they have opacity limits on each of those items, stockpiles, loading, unloading, and roadways that are, like I say, very strict, and we do adhere to those limits.
Thank you very much for that explanation.
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Member Faith, just a follow-up question.
Sure.
Just wondering, again, to the supplier, what is the smallest size aggregate that you're going to be storing on this property? Are you doing sand and dirt, or just gravel?
So the smallest size product would be sand.
Okay.
All the way up to riprap, which are big boulder sized products that are used for erosion control.
Right.
It's kind of a whole plethora, and that's the reason for the multiple stockpiles.
Okay.
Is each product has to be staged in its own stockpile, so there's not cross contamination amongst
Right.
sizes. Yeah.
And you're using the concrete dividing in between those stockpiles?
We may. Our intent is to try to keep the stockpiles segregated between with roadways in between them.
Okay.
But if we do become too pinched on room, we have used concrete stockpile or concrete walls to segregate the stockpiles.
Okay, great.
Yeah, if you look at the aerial, you'll see where we've got stockpiles, and those are not reflecting any sort of concrete barriers in between the stockpiles. We try to keep them open so that we can get the loader in between them and the trucks to be able to load
Right.
them.
Okay. Right. So you're not the first supplier to come before us, but I think you're probably a bigger operation than some of the ones we've seen. So just wanted to be clear on those questions. If there's no other comments or questions, Madam Chair, I'll move forward with a motion.
Hearing none, go ahead.
All right. We've heard testimony from the appellant's team, and we appreciate the fact that they've contacted. We like it when things are buttoned up before they come before us. So they've worked with the CDC, they've worked with city planning, and they've met with the councilman, who we've seen his email supporting the project. And so all parties involved seem to be in support of this. And so I move forward. I move that we approve calendar number 23-032.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Roca seconds.
Ms. Roca with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 23-032 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send the appellants a letter.
All right, thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next case.
Are we going to go back up to Union, or are we moving on to the administrative?
We're moving on. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll read them in. I'm reading them each in. We're not doing them together.
No.
No. Oh, sorry.
So our next case is calendar number 23-030. This is an administrative appeal. Chuck Hoven, Eric Ambro, and Laura Siraki appeal the decision of the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Chuck Hoven, Eric Ambro, Laura Siraki appeal under the authority of Section 76-6 of the Charter of the City of Cleveland and Section 329.02D of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances from the decision of the Cleveland Landmarks Commission to issue a certificate of appropriateness for an addition at 1975 Ford Drive on January 12, 2023. This case was postponed from March 13th. No testimony was taken. The postponement was made at the request of the appellant to push the hearing to a date when 5 members would be present. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
Okay.
I do. Dan Musson, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
Okay, we're unmuted on Janice's.
I do. Carl Brunges, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
You can stay.
I do. Joyce Huang, Planning Director, 601 Lakeside.
I do. Janice Cogger, 11305 Hessler Road.
I do. Laura Siraki, 11303 Hassler Road.
I do. Chuck Coven, 11301 Hessler Road.
I do. Steve Barrett, 11322 Hessler Road.
I'm sorry, those names got confused there. So who just swore in?
Yeah, Eric. Eric was the last one. Chuck Coven and then Eric Ambro. And you had Janice Cogger and Laura Siraki as well.
And we have that. It's just the last two people spoke over each other, so I couldn't tell who was who.
Okay, mine was Chuck Coven and Eric Ambro.
Okay, Eric Ambro, repeat your swear in with your address so we'll know.
I do. Eric Ambro, 11322 Hessler Road.
Steve?
Yeah, Steve Barrett, 11311 Hessler Road, property owner.
And Madam Chair, Majid Makhlouf here also again as legal counsel for the appellee. I don't get sworn in, but I'm here.
Your legal counsel for who?
For the property owner, for the appellee.
Okay.
And that is me. I'm here. I'm having a little trouble with my video. Russell Baruch, owner 19942 Chagrin.
And I do. Kevin Dreyfus Wells, RDL Architects, architect for the property owner, 16102 Chagrin Boulevard.
Both live on Chagrin.
No, the offices are there.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is appealing an approval by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. The standard of review is whether the approval was illegal, arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence. If the appellant fails to meet this burden, the approval must be affirmed.
Thank you. Okay, who's leading off for the appellant?
Okay. Hi, we're sitting at a table around an iPad. So we're gonna stay off video. And if at any point you can't hear us, let me know. This is Laura Siraki.
Okay, please be sure to announce who you are before you speak.
Sorry about that. Okay. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Laura Siraki. Hang on, I'm having some interference. I'm the, can you hear me okay?
No, there's a horrible echo.
There's a lot of feedback.
There's a lot of feedback. Okay. Hang on.
I'm
sorry.
Have a cell phone at the table?
All of the volumes are muted. Okay, is there still a lot of echo? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Sorry about that.
You have to turn yours off.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Okay. Is that better?
Okay, now you might be all the way muted if you're talking.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hessler Neighborhood Association is a 501c3 nonprofit founded in 1969 to improve living conditions in the district, create a historic district, and work together for the benefit of the district, both for the preservation of the historic housing in the district and affordable and safe housing in the district. The Hessler Neighborhood Association is responsible for hosting the annual Hessler Street Fair, a 50-year-old tradition, which in its own right has gained historic status. It's a culturally.
We're losing you. And we lost you.
And it is, I'm sorry, I'm getting some noise. Is somebody trying to communicate something?
Yeah, you were going
Okay.
in and out.
Oh, it's going in and out?
It's going in and out on everybody.
Oh, okay. Shoot, it might be reception on this.
You sound fine now, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, did you hear the history of the neighborhood association? I'm sorry. Is that?
Yes, and particularly that's not really needed for this. This is an appeal for the landmarks decision, so you should get right to that.
Okay, so on January 12th, 2023, the Landmarks Commission issued a certificate of appropriateness for an addition for Ford Hessler Property Reorganization LLC's addition to the rear of 1975 Ford Drive. 1975 Ford Drive is a home that anchors the district. It's on the corner of Ford Drive and Hessler Road. The rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive housed a yard, or had a yard, and a historic two-car garage. The historic two-car garage was demolished in preparation for development of the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive. The 1975 Ford Drive was converted to apartments in the mid-50s internally. Externally, however, it still appears as a grand home in the district, anchoring the district, facing Ford Drive with its rear yard on Hessler Road. The rear yard has earned historic significance in its own right as a site used by the Hessler Street Fair. The Hessler Street Fair is an event. It's the Hessler Neighborhood Association's only event, fundraising event. And the purpose is to bring awareness about the district, preservation of the district, and awareness about affordable housing in the district too. Let's see. So if you look at 1975 Ford Drive, from say the corner of Ford and Hessler Road, it doesn't look as an apartment building. It still appears as a grand home in the district, which once had the historic garage. We've allowed UCI, University Circle Incorporated, the local CDC, and former property owners to use the rear yard of the home at 1975 Ford Drive for parking for as long as they own the property, since the mid-70s. There is some discussion about the new addition or a development in the rear yard being appropriate, apartments being appropriate, but I would argue that because 1975 Ford Drive and its rear yard still convey a grand home with a yard, an apartment building and not an apartment building, addition of an apartment building, either standalone or an attached addition to the house is inappropriate. In 2014, University Circle Incorporated acknowledged the importance of the rear yard, and with the City Planning Commission, made a plan with the Hessler Neighborhood Association to designate the rear yard as parking, common space, and event space for the street fair. Unfortunately, the plan was never implemented, even though we understood the intention was to maintain the open space. And instead, University Circle Incorporated sold the property to Hessler, our Ford Hessler Development, Ford Hessler Property Reorganization LLC, to build a development. Taking away our ability to use the rear yard, which we've used for 50 years for the street fair. So hang on, it has, okay. The street fair has brought tens of thousands of people to University Circle for 50 years. The health of the historic district has depended on the street fair. The Street Fair Committee, the body responsible for organizing the street fair, has made use of the rear yard at 1975 Ford Drive for street fair purposes since the fair's inception in 1969. Over the years, the rear yard at 1975 Ford Drive has served as an auxiliary stage area for music and amateur circus acts, a vintage Volkswagen car show, the food court, and its historic two-car garage was the home of the Hessler Street Fair Museum, which housed a collection of 50 years of Hessler memorabilia. Since February 2021, when a development proposal was released for the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive, numerous city officials, University Circle Incorporated staff, and the development team have repeatedly stated that the development of the rear yard at 1975 Ford will not interfere with the street fair. Having not organized the Hessler Street Fair, their claims are unfounded. In fact, in 2014, University Circle Incorporated designated the space for street fair use and parking, as I mentioned. The reason we are here today is to ask you to either have the Landmarks Commission reconsider the certificate of appropriateness for the addition to the rear yard or to the rear of 1975 Ford Drive, or deny the certificate of appropriateness. We believe the development is inappropriate. We believe that the Landmarks Commission failed to demonstrate how it is appropriate according to the Cleveland Zoning Code, Chapter 161, Landmarks Commission. So we've been told over the course of this process that Landmarks Commission sticks strictly to the Secretary of the Interior standards laid out in the Cleveland Codified Ordinances 16105B1. But the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, according to Chapter 161, Landmarks Commission offers a lot of protections for historic places in Cleveland. The public policy and purpose, according to Chapter 16101, states that the purpose of the Landmarks Commission, according to council, declares as a matter of public policy that the preservation, protection, perpetuation, and use of areas, places, buildings, structures, works of art, or other objects having a special historical, community, or aesthetic interest or value is a public necessity and is required in the interest of the health, prosperity, safety, and welfare of the people. The purpose of the chapter, it says, is to safeguard the heritage of the city by preserving sites, which I would argue the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive is a site, which reflects elements of the city's cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history. Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District has cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history. The Chapter 16101 goes on. It states that its purpose is to strengthen the economy of the city. The street fair has brought vendors to the street, thousands of people to University Circle Incorporated. The Hessler Neighborhood Association, well, the Hessler Housing Cooperative actually provides affordable housing in the district. The activities of the street fair, the charm of the historic district, the affordable housing allows dollars to stay in the local economy. It goes on, Chapter 16101 goes on to say that the Landmarks Commission is charged with protecting and enhancing the city's attractions to residents, tourists, and visitors, and serves as a support and stimulus to business and industry. All of these things enhance the visual and aesthetic character, diversity, and interest of the city, foster civic pride in the beauty and notable accomplishments of the past, promote the use and preservation of historic sites and structures for education and general welfare of the people in the city. Finally, the Landmarks Commission is to take whatever steps are necessary to safeguard the property rights of the owners whose property is declared to be a landmark or is located in an area designated as a landmark district. And we're here today as property owners in a designated landmark district, and we're asking you to protect our property rights. We've kept our properties historic according to historic guidelines in the Secretary of the Interior standards for 50 years. Okay. I wanted to share that I am concerned that the Landmarks Commission is basing their decisions on unfounded information. According to the ordinance which designates the Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District, Ordinance 1668-75, the district, the boundaries of the district are laid out, and the ordinance states that the district in its entirety has special character, special historical, and aesthetic value. The Landmarks Commission did not discuss that in their discussion to decide whether or not to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the addition to 1975 Ford. It begs the question, how does the Landmarks Department decide, and how does the Landmarks Commission decide which properties are worth keeping and which are not? Where's the tipping point? So if one property owner is allowed to demolish a structure on their site and build
We're losing you, Ms. Araki. Mr. Rocky?
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
We're gonna try a different device. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Janice. Okay, let me know if you can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So there's the echo. Hang on, we're gonna try to take care of the echo. So we do not believe the Landmarks Commission can make an informed decision about environmental changes in the district when the parameters about what's significant and what's not significant in the district are arbitrarily decided. And that is how the Landmarks Commission has made their decision about development in the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive from February 2021 to the present. Keep in mind that the ordinance designated the Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District states that all of the parcels in their entirety
Did you just go out again?
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. We do not believe that the Landmarks Commission can make an informed decision about environmental changes in the district when the parameters about what's significant and what's not significant are arbitrarily decided. And that is how the Landmarks Commission has made their decisions about the development of the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive from February 2021 to the present. Keep in mind that the ordinance designating the Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District describes all of the district in its entirety. which has remained unchanged since the passage of that ordinance up until the time the historic two-car garage in 1975 Ford Drive's rear yard was demolished. I had the pleasure of visiting the landmarks department to look at their files on Hessler Road. There's a large collection of unorganized files, documents, photos dating from 1968 to the present, when the conception of the Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District was determined. There's not a list of, as far as I know, there's not a list, there's not an inventory, there's not a preservation plan. There's no documents stating which buildings are and aren't significant. There is information in the files about the significance of the 50-year-old street fair and Hessler's struggle for safe and affordable housing, but without an updated current record and clear parameters that property owners on Hessler, the city, and the CDC all understand, it's the decision to add an addition or development or to take away or add anything to the district is not properly supported. Finally, in getting to section 16105B of the landmarks ordinance, which the Landmarks Commission was instructed to stick to when evaluating the environmental change for the certificate of appropriateness. 16105 states regulation of environmental changes for certificate of appropriateness. What gets applied here is section B. The commission shall evaluate applications to determine whether or not the environmental change proposed by the applicant will adversely affect any significant historical or aesthetic feature of the property, and to determine whether or not the environmental change proposed by the applicant is consistent with the spirit and purpose of this chapter. It states, so we're going to look at number 1, in evaluating applications for alterations or construction of property, the commission shall consider the following standards created by the U.S. Department of the Interior. A property shall be used for its historic purpose or placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment. So it's not, the Landmarks Commission evaluated the environmental change in relation to the building. It didn't evaluate the environmental change in relation to, it didn't evaluate the minimal, the change to the site and the environment. The rear yard, as I described, is historically open space. It has never been developed except for the Ford, or rather the two-car historic garage, and which the historic two-car garage served as the Hessler Street Fair Museum. So in its own right had significance. As I previously described, the development of the rear yard of 1975 Ford Drive as proposed will create an adverse effect to the historic character of the district. Section B states the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. So again, there it says the removal of historic materials, which I know the Landmarks Commission has mitigated, or the Landmarks Department has looked at the removal of historic materials with the addition to the Ford Drive building, and determined that there isn't a permanent or detrimental alteration. However, the alteration to the space that characterized the property was not avoided, the space being the rear yard at 1975 Ford Drive. Section 16105B1, capital C, each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. The rear yard is the physical record. The addition takes cues from the apartment buildings that flank the either end of the historic district. The addition does take a few cues from the historic property to which it's being added. However, it is a detrimental adverse change. And then D, most properties change over time. Those changes have acquired historic significance in their own right and shall be retained and preserved. It could be argued that the property has, that the rear yard at 1975 Ford Drive has acquired historic significance via its role in the Hessler Street Fair and as the only open space in the district. Letter H, significant archaeological resources affected by a project shall be protected and preserved. If such resources must be disturbed, mitigation measures shall be undertaken. No study was done indicating whether the property at 1975 Ford has significant archaeological features. Prior to being developed in the early 1900s, the property was the homestead for Cyrus Ford, who settled the land and built his homestead nearby in 1830. This could warrant an archaeological study. And then finally, the Secretary of the Interior standards that the Landmarks Commission focused on most, or tried to focus on during their January 12th meeting, stated that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property, which they determined was the case, that not a significant amount of historic material would be destroyed, that the new work shall be differentiated from the old, which was done. The new work is differentiated from the old. The part that the Landmarks Commission failed to address is how the building is incompatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the, and in doing so, failed to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. When considering additions, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation from the U.S. Department of the Interior gives clear guidelines. They state, according to numerous resources on their website, which the Landmarks Commission's, Cleveland Landmarks Commission's website has a link to, there are lots of descriptions about additions in historic districts. And you can go on and find them. There are illustrated guidelines, there are preservation briefs, there are publications. And what they all state is that new additions should be constructed so that the character defining features of the historic building, its site and setting, are not negatively impacted. They should preserve the historic relationship between the buildings and the landscape. So when viewed from Ford Drive and Hessler Road, although converted to apartments, it's still, the 1975 Ford Drive still appears as a grand home, which anchors the district. So the other thing that the Secretary of the Interior standards state for compatibility, massing, size, and scale is that the addition shall always be visually subordinate to the historic property to which it's being added in order to not harm the historic property to which it's being added. It should be on an inconspicuous elevation. It should be stepped back in scale. The corner of 1970, or the corner at property at 1975 Ford Drive and Hessler Road has no inconspicuous elevation on which to add an addition. Additionally, the proposed addition by the Ford Hessler Property Reorganization LLC is double the square footage of the property to which it's being added to. I know consideration was taken about the height, but it could be argued that, well, yeah, so an addition that's twice as large as the original historic property, according to the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, is not acceptable. It should always be visually subordinate to the historic building to which it's being added. Okay. The Landmarks Commission in their deliberations stated that they gave lots of credit to the developers for trying to change their designs to fit into the historic district. However, they did not show that compatible massing size and scale would most obviously involve a two-story block, so two walls with a gable roof, and not a flat roof, three-story box, which is what's being proposed, regardless of any other architectural features that were added to try to create a smaller scale. The Landmarks Commission simply said it is compatible, and simply saying it's compatible does not, in fact, make it so. Michelle Anderson stated that the addition was too big, too bulky, out of scale. The mass was not compatible, and in doing so was the only commission member that addressed the scale and the adverse effects of the addition to the historic property. Commission members made an argument for, none of the commission members made an argument for how the two-story brick facade that continues as black siding above to the roof at the third story was actually compatible with 1975 Ford Drive. None of the commission members made an attempt to claim that the addition was compatible with its environment, exclusive of its compatibility or lack of compatibility with the historic property of the house itself, which is what is primarily required by the ordinance, but that might have made the decision less arbitrary and capricious had they addressed that. Their decision was not based on a preponderance of evidence, but was instead the end result of lots of reiterations of a project. But in the end, the addition is a hulking addition to the back of a historic house. It's the three-story apartment building with 6 units, 3 bedrooms each. Finally,
I'd like to go before I forget.
okay. Just a couple more.
Ms. Araki, are you wrapping up? You've been.
Yep, I'm wrapping
You've
up.
been taking up a lot of time.
I'm sorry. It's I'm sorry. I'll end it right there, and if I have more to add, I'll share. Okay, I'm gonna hand this over to my neighbor, Eric Ambro.
I have a question first.
Sure.
At any point in time, you stated that the street fair was done on the open space. At any point in time, was the Hessler Neighborhood Group the owner of that space? Were they just allowed to do the street fair there?
Yeah, we were allowed to do the street fair there.
Okay, so at no point did you own it yourself?
No.
It's owned by the Development Corporation, the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah, it was owned by
Okay.
University Circle Incorporated from 1975 to 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And when you change over to the next neighbor, I just want you all to realize that Ms. Araki did apply a lot of information in her presentation. So I will ask you to focus on what is not been presented already, instead of rehashing what she's already said.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Eric Ambro. I'm a 40-year resident of 11322 Hessler Road. Laura invoked the rules of the Landmark Commission Declaration of Public Policy and Purpose and the rules of the standards created by the U.S. Department of the Interior. At the January meeting of the Landmarks Commission, the commissioners voted the complete opposite of those rules. They voted totally against them. We are here today for the same reason residents applied for historic landmark district designation 50 years ago, to preserve and protect our neighborhood. We presumed landmark designation would do that. But if the Landmarks Commission doesn't have to obey its rules for preservation and protection, then there is no point to any landmark designation. If the obviously wrong decision by the Landmarks Commission is allowed to stand, then all the rules of the Cleveland Zoning Code, Chapter 161, and the standards created by the Department of the Interior, what are they for? Why are they there? Members of the Landmarks Commission don't seem to understand this. We hope you all do. Thank you.
Okay, this
you.
is Chuck Hoven, and I want to address another part of the landmarks ordinance, chapter 16103, which has to do with the commission, the Landmarks Commission, its composition and terms. I'm going to read a little section of it. There is thereby created the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. The commission shall consist of 11 members, 7 of whom shall be appointed by the mayor, subject to the confirmation of council. The remaining members shall be the Commissioner of Architecture or his or her designee, the Director of City Planning Commission or his or her designee, who shall act as Secretary of the Landmarks Commission, and 2 members appointed by the council president to serve during the term of such council. Members to be appointed by the mayor shall be chosen from the nominations made by the Western Reserve Historical Society, the Cleveland chapter of the American Institute of Architects, and the Early Settlers Association. At least 1 member shall be an owner of commercial or industrial real property. At least 1 member shall be a registered architect. At least 1 member shall be a historian qualified in the field of historic preservation. At least 1 member shall be a licensed real estate broker. At least 1 member shall be an attorney, and all members shall have, to the highest extent practicable, a known interest in landmarks preservation. Okay, that's just the section I wanted to refer to. And one of the reasons for us appealing the January 12th, 2023 decision of the Landmarks Commission is that the city of Cleveland has not adhered to the above ordinance when making mayoral appointments to the Landmarks Commission. Of the 7 appointments to be made by the mayor of the city of Cleveland, only 6 positions had been filled at the time of our January 12th hearing. One of the mayoral appointed positions, that for a historian, was vacated during the Jackson administration and has not been filled by the Bibb administration, despite nominees having been duly presented.
Mr. Hoven, we don't have jurisdiction over who's appointed to the Landmarks Commission.
Yeah, but you do have jurisdiction over the decision that they made when they were improperly composed. So that's what I'm
talk about.
bringing
Okay,
up
we'll
here.
talk about the decision and not the appointees, because
Well,
that's
I
not
have
what
to
we can
talk
weigh in
about
on.
the appointees because that's related to the decision. of the
Speak about the
six,
decision, please.
that is why I'm disputing the decision. Let me tell you, okay, I'll go down to that. The Landmarks
you.
Commission decision of January 12th, 2023 to institute a certificate of appropriateness to the project within the Hessler Court and Hessler Road Historic District was illegal, arbitrary, and capricious. The Landmark Commission at the time of our hearing on January 12, 2023 was illegitimately composed by a majority of commissioners who had not been properly nominated to the Landmarks Commission according to section 16103, which unequivocally states members to be appointed by the mayor shall be chosen from nominations made by the Western Reserve Historical Society, the Cleveland chapter of the American Institute of Architects, and the Early Settlers Association. And I have letters from all organizations showing the nominations they made to both the Jackson administration and the Bibb administration. So nominations had been submitted, and that as a resident of Hessler Court and the Hessler Road Historic District in the city of Cleveland, I believe that we are, or at least should be, a city that adheres to the rule of law. Citizens, city officials, including the mayor, members of the Landmarks Commission, and you, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, are not able to simply pick and choose which laws you wish or do not wish to adhere to. The Board of Zoning Appeals must rescind the decision of the current Landmarks Commission, case 22-292, pending correction of the illegally composed and thereby illegitimate Landmarks Commission. If our case is to be reheard, it should be reheard by a Landmarks Commission that's properly composed. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here, Jan Scott.
My name is Janice Cogger, 11305 Hessler Road. I've lived here for 35 years, and I'll make my comments really short and sweet. When 2.5 years ago, when a project was originally proposed for this site, the councilman advised us to let the process work out and to let the experts speak. What has happened since then has been a mockery of the law in every way, from the point at which representatives of University Circle Incorporated made false assertions that parking could be made available in the Ford Road garage to support the development when they knew that that garage was going to have to be demolished, to the issuance of building permits a week ago while there was a stay on any activity issued by the Common Pleas Court. Again and again, this has been done. Things have been done that are in complete disregard of the law, including we are now looking out at a site, we could let you hear the noise from it, a site which is not legal. There is no fence for security. There is no screening, nothing. Sidewalks have been closed without posting a permit for the closure of the sidewalks. A third of all the parking in the historic, the parking district have been eliminated without any advance notification. That's all I have to say. There's a free stamp next to City Hall, and it's starting to look like it belongs there.
All right, thank you. I will let the city respond now.
Thank you to the chair. This is Joyce Wong, Planning Director. On behalf of the City of Cleveland and the Landmarks Commission, I'm here to testify that the Landmarks Commission did follow procedure and that the decision made on January 12th, 2023 regarding the 1975 Ford Road case number 22092 was neither arbitrary nor capricious. And I'm going to focus my comments particularly on the procedures related to the appeal. Wanted to just share a little bit about who else is in the room. So I will speak on behalf of the city. The Landmark staff, including Dan Musson and Carl Brunges, are present to answer any technical questions. Kevin Roberts of the Law Department is the city's legal representation, who's also present. The developer team is also available for technical questions related to the project. including Russell Baruch, Kevin Dreyfus Wells, the architect, and Masjid Makhlouf, the legal representation. So I'm going to address the topics addressed in their appeal, in particular, the charge of the Landmarks Commission and the Landmarks Commission composition and terms. So I'll start first with the charge of the Landmarks Commission. And no need to focus on this particular image at this point. And Maurice, if you could actually go up a few slides. In the appeal, the residents appeal to the Landmarks Commission ordinance in section 161. It appears that the overall concerns are related to the question, is this site critical to the nature of the historic district, and will new construction create long-term impacts on the historic district? Related to the preservation, protection, perpetuation of historic districts, preservation does not preclude new construction. We see new construction proposals in historic districts all over the city. In fact, the Federal Secretary of the Interior guidelines do not preclude new construction. The language used in the Secretary of the Interior is to reflect architecture of its time. Neighborhoods evolve, and this is a fact of any neighborhood in any city in Cleveland and around the world. No neighborhood perpetually stays frozen in time. The appellants often point to the 1927 Sanborn maps as their North Star for their district footprint. Yet just 14 years prior, in 1898, if you can go to the next slide, Hessler Road, Hessler Court, and its structures, including the appellant's homes, didn't even exist at that time. Nowhere does the ordinance of the Landmarks Commission point to the period of 1912 to 1968 or 1971 or any period thereafter as an ideal moment in time. So just to the point, neighborhoods evolve, structures evolve, even streets evolve. Regarding the certificate of appropriateness for this project, the existing historic district is a mix of single, two-family, and multifamily buildings erected at different points in time with varying architectural features. This was discussed by the applicant and the property owner during the Landmarks Commission meeting. There are multifamily apartments right across from the 1975 Ford building on Hessler Road. The design fits the district and is not arbitrary nor capricious, as identified by the Landmarks Commission, who has the authority to deem as such. The proposed development as presented fits the massing, size, scale, and architectural features with deference to the height of the district. This was shown again in the meeting on January 12th. They had elevations that showed that the structure did not exceed the height of any other structure in the district. Architectural features defer to the height of the district and are similar to other features in the historic district. Furthermore, to the point about multifamily housing, the house itself has been used as apartments since the 1950s. Related to the preservation, protection, and perpetuation of historic districts, the proposed development is on the rear yard of 1975 Ford. As noted by the appellants, an accessory structure, which is the garage of 1975 Ford, was demolished in 2021, granted through a certificate of appropriateness, deeming the garage as architecturally insignificant to the site, and the Landmarks Commission has the authority to grant it as such. In fact, 4 garages have been demolished in the district. 3 garages were demolished in 1976. This is my point here, is that no existing dwelling units are being demolished to accommodate this development. And on the record, I would not support the demolition of dwelling units in order to accommodate. But there, the site was the location of the Hessler Street Fair Food Court and Museum. Regarding Ms. Iraki's appeal about the site itself, the construction of the building does not preclude the importance of the Hessler Street Fair, and the developer has offered space for the Hessler Street Fair on the record at a previous Landmarks Commission meeting. Finally, regarding construction, the nature of the concern should be focused on whether or not construction will have a long-term impact on the historic district. The city has heard the request of the appellants regarding the disruptive nature of construction to the city's public right-of-way and infrastructure, specifically the Brook Road and the Wood Block Court. The city has requested that the developer use flaggers to back trucks in and out of one-way Hessler Road to avoid bringing trucks down Hessler Court. Water hookups will go out to Ford Road instead of out to Hessler Road, again to avoid damage to the Brook Road. The city is committed to maintaining and managing our public right-of-way and infrastructure, as the city owns the streets. The purview of the Landmarks Commission are certificates of appropriateness. Subjects related to parking are zoning matters, and the parking as proposed does comply with the zoning. Finally, I do want to mention that, as the chair pointed out, this is not their property, nor have they ever owned the property. And so that is worth discussing. Regarding the Landmarks Commission composition, the city has documentation of Mayor Jackson's appointments and reappointment letters as shown. As the planning director under the Bibb administration, it is imperative during my tenure to follow the Landmarks Ordinance, which prescribes that the nominations for the Landmarks Commission should come from, or shall come from, 3 organizations: American Institute of Architects, Western Reserve Historical Society, and the Early Settlers Association. Current administration has been following the ordinance as written, and on top of that, we have evidence that the prior administration made significant attempts to follow the ordinance. While I cannot speak much to the details on how commission members were nominated or seated prior to the Bibb administration, under City Charter 70, adopted in 1931, regarding the mayor's appointing power, the mayor is granted authority to seat commission members as desired, deeming the prior appointments and reappointments as legitimate, as the charter does overrule city ordinances. I also do want to mention that we did have quorum on the date of January 12th, 2023 during the decision. Therefore, the vote was procedurally valid. Maurice, if you could show the next slide, I just want to check to see if there's the charter mentioned. That's about virtual meeting.
No, I don't have anything on the charter.
Okay, it's in chapter 70. City Charter 70. That is all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the city need to speak? If not, I will open it up to my board for questions.
I have a question, Madam Chair, for the appellant. To clarify, as part of the testimony, I think I heard, and I would like a clarification on, is it your position that the Landmarks Commission does not have the authority to permit any building or structure to a historic district? What I believe your testimony stated was that the Landmarks Commission doesn't have that authority and it's not properly supported, and their decision to issue a certificate of appropriateness for a new structure was illegal. So I want some clarification on whether that is your position, that the Landmarks Commission has no authority to approve a building or structure in the Hessler Historic District.
Okay, can you hear us, Ms. Roca? This is
Yes, we
Laura
can.
Rocky. Okay.
Yeah, this is Chuck Hoven. The Landmarks Commission is currently composed at the time of our meeting did not meet its own requirements. Despite the requirements of the ordinance that there be 11 members of the commission, there are only 9 members at the time of the January 12th meeting. One position for a mayoral appointee for a historian qualified in the field of historic preservation remained unfilled. One city council appointee, Tony Brancatelli, had been dismissed from the Landmarks Commission prior to the meeting to bring the membership down to 9. One of those members, Giancarlo Calicia, was absent, so only 8 members were in attendance. Of those 8 in attendance, 1 was appointed during the last week of Mayor Jackson's administration without having been duly nominated by the 3 organizations, and ironically does not meet even the minimal qualifications of membership on the Landmarks Commission, that of having a known interest in landmarks preservation. Only 4 had been properly appointed per the requirements of the city ordinance cited above, landmarks composition. Those 4 are the Director of City Planning Commission, Joyce Wong, Commission of Architecture designee Carter Edmond, City Council appointee Alan Dreyer, and mayoral appointee Michelle Anderson, a licensed real estate broker. And as I've said before, I've obtained copies of the letters from the 3 organizations given the responsibility in the ordinance to submit nominations. The letters are addressed to both Mayor Frank Jackson, letters dated August 12th, 2015, December 12th, 2016, December 17th, 2019, and to Mayor Justin Bibb, letter dated May 23rd, 2022. The letters show that as required by the ordinance, the city chapter of the American Institute of Architects, the Western Reserve Historical Society, and early settlers of the Western Reserve did indeed make nominations of professional candidates involved in the field of historic preservation and provided the resumes of the candidates to the mayors. At the time of our hearing on January 12, 2023, only one of the mayoral appointees had been appointed from the list provided, and that was Michelle Anderson. The other mayoral appointees were not recommended from the nominating bodies as required in the ordinance. So you did not have a quorum of legitimate people at that meeting. There's an 11-member board, and there was not a majority that was properly appointed.
Thank you for that additional testimony.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, if I may just quickly for the property owner, a couple of points of clarification.
Yes.
Just a quick couple of points of clarification. I think the charter provision that was cited by Director Wong is Chapter 11, Section 70 of the city charter, which provides that the mayor shall have the power to appoint and remove directors of all departments and officers and members of commissions not included within regular departments. Officers appointed by the mayor shall serve until removed by him or until their successors are appointed and have been qualified. So the charter unequivocally gives that power to the mayor. No ordinance can override the charter, which is the city constitution, if you want to think of it this way. Just a couple other points. I think Director Wong touched on all of them, just so that they're clearly in the record. You know, just the Landmarks Commission is not tied. The landmark designation is not tied to the fair, and nor is it tied to the rear yard or garages or anything of that nature. It's tied to the buildings, as the director explained. 2, the fair stopped in 2019. Everybody cited it as a 50-year point, as a good point to do a hiatus. The chair specifically went on this, and the director went on it. Private property rights. The idea that the fair happens there, that's not the point. And the fair can happen in the future at other locations. You don't have to use that very specific privately owned site for that. And then obviously the issue that preservation does not equal freezing of a district. If that were the case, you wouldn't have a landmarks commission. There would be no need for the landmarks commission. You would just outright ban any kind of activity in the landmarks district, and you're done, you're frozen. The very purpose of having a landmarks commission is to be able to have those kinds of modifications, so that you could have the certificate of appropriateness process, as has happened here, with people who know what they're doing, who've spent the time. I couldn't put it any better than what the director did in terms of how this fits the district, and this makes perfect sense in terms of what this development. Lastly, I think all of this is really too late, because as the testimony was by the appellants, the permit was issued, construction is ongoing. This appeal is moot. There's nothing to appeal. The permit is in place, the construction is ongoing. The appellants failed to seek a stay of the Landmarks Commission from this board. There's never been a stay of it. So honestly, I question what we're doing here, because there's really nothing before the board. The permit is issued and construction is ongoing. And obviously, if the board has any questions, the person with the expertise on the landmarks and the site plan itself is Kevin Dreyfus-Wells, who's with us on the call. He'll be happy to answer any questions of the board. And he did a presentation before the board when you approved the variances for the project. Those slides are available. He can answer any of those questions, just making him available for the board. But I think, honestly, there's nothing for the board to do, because by their own testimony, the permit was issued and construction is ongoing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Roca, have your questions been answered?
Yes, the additional testimony was what I was seeking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, board? If not, I think we've heard enough testimony.
Ms. Britt, could we respond? This is Laura Saraki.
What are you responding to exactly?
Well, just a couple of things. Director Wong stated that, for the record, that she would not support the demolition of dwelling units, but in historic districts across the city, even just now in Little Italy, we're seeing the proposal and acceptance or issuance of certificates of appropriateness for the demolition of dwelling units for the purpose of developments like this that maximize profit for the developer. Additionally, Director Wong stated that there are apartment buildings within the district. And as I stated, there are apartment buildings within the district. They flank the ends of the district. There are no apartment buildings with flat roofs that occur within the district. What is within the district, and this is what the Landmarks Commission failed to show, is in the center throughout the district, there are two-storied apartment or two-storied houses with gabled roofs and dormers and habitable attics. The three-story flat roof, the three-story walled apartment building with a flat roof might be appropriate at one end of the district or as anchoring the district, but it's not appropriate within the district. The massing scale and size isn't compatible according to the Secretary of the Interior Standards 16105I. So, is there something else you wanted? I think Eric wanted to say something.
Yeah, this is Eric Ambro again. Director Hoying said that the design of the building is not arbitrary or capricious. That's not our assertion. Our assertion is the Landmarks Commission's decision was arbitrary and capricious. I don't know how we can make this more plain. The standards by the U.S. Department of the Interior states, and I quote, "A property shall be used for its historic purpose or placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment." The vote by the Landmarks Commission was in total violation of that rule. The commission was not properly formed.
Okay, thank you. I'll let Director Wong clear up whatever she needs to clear up, and then I'm going to the board for a decision.
I have no need to rehash my statements regarding the certificates of appropriateness and the arguments and proposal put forth by the applicant on January 12th. I do want to respond to the nature of the comment regarding the demolitions. You know, I am specifically talking about this particular district. I am not talking about any other districts, not Little Italy or other districts. And each project is taken by case basis, which is why the Landmarks Commission has been established. So I just want to clarify that for the record. Again, the extensive proposal by the applicant demonstrates how this particular design, the certificate of appropriateness, relates to design. The scale, architectural features, massing, size does fit. And with that, I'll just conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. So back open to my board. I didn't hear any further questions. I'll leave it open one more time if anyone has any further questions they need answered.
Ms. Cogger has a comment.
Yes, this is Janice Cogger. I'd like to respond to Mr. Maloof's assertion that since the building permits have been issued, this is moot and that your commission cannot consider it. I'd like to refer to the Department of Building and Housing's website, where there is a comment after the court had issued a stay on March 10th. The comment reads, project expedited to front of queue per administration directive due to pending litigation. So this building permit actually was illegally issued.
I understand that, but that's not part of, we're talking about the Landmarks Commission decision right now. So thank you. So I have closed, Mr. Hoven, I've closed testimony.
Okay.
And I'm speaking to the board right now for any clarification questions they need. And if I don't hear any, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I do have one question.
Yes.
To the city, either director of planning or to Landmarks. Part of what the appellant is questioning is whether the street fair, which they deemed historic and taking place in this area and on the site, although it was privately owned property, whether the impact of the approval, the impact on the street fair should have been considered when Landmark was deliberating. And someone else made a comment that Landmarks only looks at buildings. I'm not sure who said that anymore. I've heard lots of testimony. So my question is just whether Landmarks consider the street fair. Is that in their purview? And can they speak to that?
Thank you to Member Brown. So regarding the street fair, you know, it is culturally significant. However, the certificates of appropriateness deal directly with design elements and architectural features. However, I'll just say that, you know, the new construction doesn't preclude the street fair from happening. And the developer did offer space on the record should the Hessler Street Fair continue. So to me, it feels that they just don't preclude one another in this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I was the one who talked to the buildings. I agree that the 1975 designation listed the buildings and did not list the fair as, so it's a culturally significant event. It doesn't make it a legal designation as a Landmarks Commission designation. But as the director pointed out, this was very much discussed at the, the applicant was willing to accommodate. So it was considered, but again, as a legal issue, it's not part of the designation. It's culturally significant, but it's not part of the designation.
Madam Chair, that's That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, board, any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Rocco?
Ms. Faith, would you like to make the
I
motion?
will, if you would like to take it, I'll happily yield the floor to you, dear.
Sure, thank you. Madam Chair, I move to affirm the decision of the Landmarks Commission in case number 22-092. As section 16105 states, the Landmarks Commission is charged with ensuring that new work is compatible with the architectural features in the historic district and adequately relied on the Secretary of Interior standards to deliberate and render their decision in that case. As identified in the testimony today, Madam Chair, the composition of the commission was valid according to the charter. In addition, appellant had testified on the record today that they acknowledge the building takes cues and elements from the surrounding historic district as is required by law, and that the Landmarks Commission properly rendered its decision on that basis. The appellant also acknowledges that the new work is in fact differentiated from the old, as is also another requirement. And in sum, based on the extensive testimony you've heard from the city and also from the appellant today, I move that we affirm the decision and that the Landmarks Commission did not render an illegal, arbitrary, capricious decision, and the appellant has not met its burden.
Thank you. Just with a friendly amendment, it's case number 23-030.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. I was referring to the underlying case, the
Yeah.
Landmarks case. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Apologize.
All right, can I have a second, please?
Member Faith seconds.
Ms. Faith with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Older?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 23-030 is denied. Decision of Landmarks has been affirmed. We will ratify this case next week, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
So I have a legal question. If former city, because they've appealed every single city decision on this case, and each one of them have been upheld. So appealing the chief building official, is that even like needed now, considering every other decision has been upheld? So that means that they would get a certificate of occupancy anyway. So I need someone on the legal side to let me know this.
I guess I would still vote on it and maybe just use that as your reasoning for your vote.
So board members, do you understand what I was getting at with this?
Totally get it. Ms. Roca, do you want to go with the motion on that?
Sure.
Madam Chairman, if I may, this is Tom Vanver, and apologize. Because this may end up.
Are you testifying for this? Or are you just
No,
giving
I would ask that I be allowed to testify, or at least let the building department's position be entered into the record.
Okay.
Have we sworn? Have we
Yeah, I was
sworn?
gonna say, we'll have to do the whole thing now. So,
Yeah.
I apologize.
Ms. Holzer, go ahead, read the case in.
Sure. Case number calendar number 23-048, Charles Hoven and Laura Saraki appealed the decision of the chief building official to issue certificates of occupancy for 1975 and 1981 Ford. Charles Hoven and Laura Saraki appeal under the authority of Section 76-6 of the Charter of the City of Cleveland and Section 329.02D of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances from the decision of the Chief Building Official of Building and Housing to issue certificates of occupancy CO 22027954 and CO 220316555 for 1975 and 1981 Ford Drive on October 21st, 2022. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address.
Laura Saraki, 11303 Hessler Road. I do.
Eric Ambro, 11322 Hessler Road. I do.
Chuck Coben, 11301 Hessler Road. I do.
Janice Cogger, 11305 Hessler Road. I do.
Steve Barrett, owner, 11311 Hessler. I do.
Mr. Vanover? Madam Chair, you wanted Vanover to
Yeah, he
swear
wants
in?
to be on the record, so he needs to swear in.
I apologize. Can you see me?
Just need to hear you.
Okay, I do. Tom Vanover, Chief Building Official, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
And Madam Chair, you're aware I'm on.
Yes. Is that everyone? Okay, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is appealing an administrative decision of the chief building official. The standard of review to be applied is whether the administrative decision was illegal, arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence. If the appellant fails to meet this burden, the administrative decision must be affirmed.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Rocky.
Okay, this is Laura Saraki. The decisions of the Commissioner of Building to issue the certificates of occupancy CO 22027954 and CO 22031655 are in direct violation of Cleveland zoning codes. It is our understanding that the Commissioner of Building relied upon variances granted in Board of Zoning Appeals calendar numbers 21173 and 21174, which were part of a package of variances for an overall comprehensive development that included Board of Zoning Appeals calendar number 21-152. The resolution for the aforementioned case numbers state that the variances are collectively part of a comprehensive development plan involving reconfiguring parcels at 1975 and 1981 Ford Drive and development of a standalone structure on a newly created parcel 11300 Hessler. The cases were heard together on December 13th, 2021 and ratified on December 20th, 2021. The comprehensive development plan based on which the variances were granted did not come to fruition. Therefore, we argue that the certificates of occupancy should not have been issued. There was not the appropriate amount of parking. There were variances for removal of parking. There were variances for changing side and rear yard lots. And we believe that the allowing Ford Hessler Property Reorganization LLC to receive variances for a comprehensive project, then later picking and choosing which parts of the package of variances they wish to keep, sets a dangerous precedent for the city of Cleveland and is unlawful.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude your testimony?
Yeah.
Thank you. Do any one of your other appellants, Mr. Ambro or Hovind, want to chime in?
Do you want to chime in?
No,
No.
no, not right now. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll flip it to the city side.
So, Madam Chairman, members of the board, thank you for hearing from me. This is Tom Vanover. I'm the Chief Building Official with the City of Cleveland. It is the city's position that the appeal before you today is not rightfully filed, in that the appeal states that the reason that the Board of Zoning Appeals made their decision was flawed. However, under 32902, Section D of the City of Cleveland Codified Ordinances that outlines the powers of the board, it says, by the provisions of the zoning code, within its power, the board may reverse or affirm wholly or in part or modify the order, requirement, decision, or determination appealed from. Our position is that the board presented a resolution to reverse the opinion and the decision of the Board of Building, the Department of Building and Housing. And as such, we were then at that point required to issue a zoning approval for the permits that were applied for. That decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals comes with an administrative appeal right that was not acted upon by the appellants. The permit was then issued, and a notice of plan approval was issued. Notice of plan approval is not regulated by the City of Cleveland local ordinance. It's regulated by the Ohio Administrative Code, Section 4101:1, and known as the Building Code. The Building Code requires that in Chapter 1, in the administrative portion, requires that when appropriate, by design, and the design meets the intent of and the requirements of the building code, that a plan approval shall be issued by the building official. That decision of the building official also comes with an administrative appeal right that was not acted upon. After the plan approval is issued and the permit was issued, the issuing of a permit by the Department of Building and Housing is also an administrative order that has an inherent appeal right that was not acted upon. The project was inspected, found to be in compliance with the design documents, and then a certificate of occupancy was issued, as is required by Chapter 1 of the Ohio Building Code, that says that if the building official, if the project is entitled thereto, that the building official shall issue a certificate of occupancy. Contesting the certificate of occupancy for this series of permits and this portion of this project is not proper, and it's inappropriate to do it before this board. Ultimately, the resolution that is submitted by the Board of Zoning Appeals is what we are required by law to follow. How the board comes to that decision and evidence that they've heard or opinions that they may have are not relevant to the department or to the zoning administrator, in that once the resolution is issued by the board to reverse the decision, that is the lawful decision that we are required by law to follow. And any contesting of that decision has due process and has administrative appeals that should have been undertaken back when that decision was issued. That is all I have.
Thank you. Board, any questions?
Ms. Britt, could I respond to that?
Sure.
This is Laura Saraki. The resolutions based on which the certificate of occupancies were issued, all three of the resolutions go together, and they state that they were part of a comprehensive project. Therefore, without the project being built, the commissioner could not issue the certificate of occupancy. Also, the charter, if the charter takes precedence over the ordinance, The charter specifically says that this appeal is a decision that can be made via the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may just very quickly, nothing to add to what Mr. Vanover said. The only thing you've heard me say this argument before, this is all moot. The certificates of occupancy have been acted upon. These buildings are occupied. There's tenancies in place. There's nothing to be appealed even before the board. And they've missed all the previous appeal opportunities, as Mr. Vanover explained. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Vanover, you can have a chance to respond if you like. If not, I'll close out testimony.
Madam Chairman, I don't think that there needs to be a response. I think the city's position is clear.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, board member moves to affirm the decision of the chief building official with respect to the certificate of occupancy.
Member Faith seconds.
Thank you, Ms. Faith, with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar 23-48 is denied. The decision of the building official has been upheld. This will be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
All right, thank you, everyone. Last call for calendar number 23-004 for 9721 Union Ave. All right, case dismissed. Okay, old business. Okay, old business 1 through 3 without objection, board.
Without objection.
Objection.
Okay, we got a lot of text down here, Liz. What's going on?
Sure. I'm going to jump into the middle case, calendar number 22-009, regarding 4630 Broadway Avenue. Julie Abouan, owner, proposed to establish use as an outside open storage. This was dismissed last week because the appellant was not present, and they did not contact our office to explain the absence. They contacted us after the hearing, and they stated that they had a scheduling confusion and thought the hearing date was on Tuesday. So she is requesting a reinstatement at this time. Now, if you decide not to reinstate this, she would have to apply again and start the process over. But, this doesn't preclude her from, moving forward with an appeal in the future.
Well, we tend to give people one check at grace, so I'm okay with reinstating the case without objection, board.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, Madam Chair, if it's all right with you, could we give it May 1st or May 8th?
Give her May 1st.
Okay, thank you. Now, the other one, the first one on the list here is calendar number 21-203, 8502 Huff Structures Unlimited was granted variances to establish use as retail and assembly pending transfer of land bank lot for parking. This was granted back in February of last year. We only hold things pending for 6 months. We actually held this one longer than that. Because we never got any documentation that the land bank parcel had been transferred. So this board dismissed it. However, we received communication from the land bank office that this was an error on their part and that they are requesting for us to reinstate it to give them time to get the documentation in. And this is, they wouldn't have to come back to you for a new hearing. This would just be, I would show you the documentation and then we would ratify it. We were just holding a ratification for that.
Land bank for coming clean on this one. I'm okay with not dismissing it and keeping it in the loop until land bank can make its decision or transfer or whatever it needs to do. So is the board okay with that without objection?
Without objection.
Objection.
Okay, thank you. And so then the final one is just a miscellaneous. There's no action required. It's regarding BZA calendar number 20-135, 1415 Kenilworth LLC, proposed to construct an apartment building on the property without proper parking. The board denied the appeal and the appellant appealed it to the Court of Common Pleas, and who affirmed the decision, and then it was appealed to the 8th District as well, who upheld the Court of Common Pleas decision. So I guess they do have time to file an appeal to the Ohio Supreme Court. So I guess it may not be complete until those 45 days are up. I do have a copy of that. There were a lot of pages. If you'd like me to scan it and send it over to all of you, I can definitely do that. I just haven't. I just didn't do it I just didn't do it yet. So if you want me to, I could send it over.
Yeah, that's fine. Whenever you have time, Liz.
Okay, I'll do that. And that is
Right.
all that we have.
All right, I think that's it.
I did have one more thing that I received this morning. Mr. O'Leary, the stay that he requested has been granted by the Court of Common Pleas. So if you remember last week, we reviewed it and the board determined that it was out of our jurisdiction. And so the Court of Common Pleas has approved the stay, and Building and Housing has been notified. Well, the city in general has been notified. Just
All right.
wanted to let you know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Go get some lunch.
Bye, everybody.
All right,
Bye.
thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone.